I'm going to show you 3 things that you've got to master if you want to be a top 1% salesperson and build rapport.
If you pretend to be interested or pretend to care, that's fucking acting. Welcome back to Aura. I'm Kyle, and in this video, we're reacting to one of the top sales coaches and sales authorities in the world, Jeremy Miner, going over why you're building rapport the wrong way and what to do instead. So, without any further ado, let's jump into this.
Quit the small talk, because rapport is not built by being liked, it's built by being trusted. There's a big difference, because people do not buy from people they like. People buy from people who they trust can get them the best result. If they like you, that's just a bonus, but they don't buy from you just because they like you only. Now, I'm going to show you 3 things that you've got to master if you want to be a top 1% salesperson and build rapport, okay? Number 1, most rapport building is actually built by your tonality. So write this down. This is a writer-downer. Your tone is how your prospect interprets your intention behind everything you say and everything you ask, okay? So I'll give you an example. Let's say if you sold life insurance as an example, and the prospect says, oh, I'm looking at life insurance because, my brother died about 2 months ago. What would most salespeople do in that space? They say something like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Now let me ask you. And then they just go into the next question. How much rapport did you build there? 0. In fact, you probably lost the deal because they feel like you don't freaking care. But if I just leaned in when they said something like that and I said, oh, what actually happened? You sound so young. Your brother must have been young. What actually happened? Oh, he had this problem. He had this problem. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Now, how much life insurance did he leave his wife? Okay, and I'm see that tone. That's a concern tone. Oh,
come on, pause button. There we go. So yeah, first thing I want to say about this is tonality is one of the most underrated traits, right? In sales, I've coached over 200 sales reps, helped them level up their income and take their career to new heights. And tonality is definitely underrated, right? However, I do agree with Jeremy in that it can be the difference between whether someone believes what you're saying or feels the impact that you want to have on them with what you're saying. But I don't see it as what he was describing, right? Where tonality comes before an intention, right? Where you want to make your tone sound a certain way to have an intention come across. I actually personally think that's backwards, right? Because another thing I've seen about tonality is if you intend something strongly enough, then your tonality automatically will shift, right? So there's tons of stuff that you can do to change your tone, right? To sound curious, right? Or sound serious and sure of yourself, and like all this kind of stuff that you can do with tonality. However, intention will automatically change your tonality as well, right? So yeah. And in fact, one of the best sales people that I've met, right? He's got huge business, making millions of dollars, right? He actually started the business that I coached over 200 reps through before I started doing my own things. Basically, he said that teaching tonality was something that he didn't even feel was needed as long as your intention is strong enough, right? Which is something I also disagree with, because there's so many different aspects to how you can change the way you sound, right? And the tone of your voice. And tonality, according to science, matters 5 times more than the words you say. So I do see it as one of the greatest areas for growth to practice if you've never done it before. However, intention is also important as well.
Actually happened. You sound so young. What actually happened to him? Now notice I'm saying that in a concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy. What if I said it like this? Oh, what actually happened? That tone doesn't do anything. They're like, well, this is kind of private, But if I'm like, oh, what what actually happened? Now notice what I did. I put my hand on my chest. That's a body language signal that shows what? That you're concerned for them. Even if you're selling on the phone, that right there, right? Your body language affects your tonality. Okay, so right here, you kind of go into like, I'm concerned. So you go into that, your tone shifts. And sometimes you can lean, oh, what actually happened? That's just a little example about how to build rapport. Okay, remember, your tone is how the prospect interprets your intention behind everything you say and you ask. So in another example, let's say if I sold some type of SaaS product that automates something for a company instead of having to manually do it, taking up hours of their time that other projects don't get done that make them revenue. I might come in and say, after I found out that they're doing something, like, oh, how long have they been forcing you to do it manually for? See how my tone shifts there? How long have they been forcing you to have to do it manually though? Notice it said forcing you. Nobody likes to be forced, but notice how I say it in a concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy. Now, does that mean I'm going to ask every question in a concerned tone? No, it wouldn't make any sense. There's other questions I need to ask more of a curious tone. Oh, walk me through. How do you guys generate new leads and clients? Just so I understand. If I sold for a marketing agency, that's a curious tone. I'm genuinely curious, okay? The point is, your tone is most of the sale. How you come across, how you ask the questions. Reason number 2 leads into what I just said. Don't ask.
Yeah, so I do agree that tonality and body language, he only mentioned body language super briefly, are two of the most important things that can separate, average or even below average sales reps from world-class top performers, right? However, I feel like if you pretend to be interested or pretend to care, that's fucking acting, right? And personally, the biggest mentor for me that helped me just totally transform my career more and had a bigger impact than anyone else would say things like, I can find a way to admire anyone, right? And understanding is the purpose of communication, which I'm going to break down both of those as well, right? Where rather than pretending to be interested, pretending to care, like you can find things that you actually care about with what's going on, right? And one thing I found sales reps really struggle with is making people feel understood, right? And if you just really seek to find what's important to someone else, and this is where most people mess it up, is understanding someone and making someone feel understood. There's a huge gap between those two things, right? So when you make people feel understood, one, they're going to feel like you hear them and you care about them, right? And then one of the most powerful ways to become more interested in someone and to care more about someone is to find things that you can genuinely admire about them, or things that you feel like are real to you that are real to them too, right? When I say real, I mean truthful and important, right? For example, I'm a huge Lakers fan, right? So if I see someone rocking some Laker gear, I can be interested in a conversation with them about that all day, like any day, Like if I see someone rocking Lakers gear, I don't even have to know who they are, and we could chat about what's going on, right, with the Lakers. And then same thing, right? It's if you have a favorite musician, right, or a favorite movie or celebrity or this or that, and then someone's wearing gear with that person, they can be a complete stranger. And then all of a sudden, you're interested in chatting with them and you care about the conversation, right? And the thing is that if you get great at conversation skills, you can find things that interest you about anyone. And when I say anyone, right, I could find a freaking homeless guy and find things that interest me and I admire about them if I really freaking wanted to, right? Personally, I don't want to go out of my way to find a homeless bit, to find something just to prove I could be interested in it, even though I've done that before, right? But I'm making the point, literally anyone in existence has a life fucking story. And if you get great at the conversation skills and digging for what's real to them, that's also real to you, then you can all of a sudden become interested and care about anyone that you want to care about. And it's not even fucking acting or pretending or just making your voice sound a certain way, right? It's you actually can become interested in anyone. It's learnable skill. I break that down in a video on YouTube if you want to check that out. One of my favorite topics to dive into, but let's jump back into this.
Predictable questions that every salesperson asks. Okay, so if you ask questions where the prospect knows where that question leads, like if you're trying to find problems and you say, can you tell me two problems that keep you awake at night? Or can you tell me some challenges you're having? Or can you tell me some issues that's going on? That is such a predictable question. Every salesperson is asking that sells anything. And because it's such a predictable question, your prospect, do they know where that question probably leads? Yes. And that's why you notice if they're a laydown sale, they open up. If they're not, you notice they kind of give you vague, generalized, surface level answers. Are you with me? So I got to reframe the questions, okay? So let's say if I sell for a marketing agency as an example, and I find out the prospect is already using a different marketing agency. I might say, so, and this is not my first question, but probably, I don't know, 8-10 minutes in, I might say, so you've already been using XYZ agency the last 5 years. I mean, they're fairly decent. I mean, what's caused you to feel like you might want to look at someone else? Or what's caused you to feel like they're not really going to be able to scale you if that's what they said they wanted, okay? Notice how I reframed the question, not what are some problems you don't like about the marketing agency, because they know where that leads. Now I'm getting them to push back and defend themselves on why they don't like the other marketing agency, which of course is what you want. That helps them. I mean, you're already with XYZ. You've already been doing this internally the last 2 years. I mean, what's causing you to feel like your internal people might not be able to really grow the business where you want? Well, we like them, but, and then they start telling you what they don't like, what they want to change. Okay, that's just an example of reframing the question. I'm interrupting the pattern the prospect brain does not understand, and I'm getting them to focus and defend themselves on why they want to change, which is probably what you.
Alrighty, so that's pretty solid, right? And a couple things you can do to take this to an entire deeper level, make it even easier and more efficient. First of all, when you get into great communication with someone, they are more interested, right? When you genuinely become interested in someone, make them feel heard, make them feel understood, cared about, right? And keeping their interest on what's important to them so they're fully engaged in the conversation, right? Then it makes it way easier for people to open up to you. For me, it was night and day difference, just learning some very simple principles of communication that are rarely taught, unfortunately, here. But anyways, a really efficient way, because right here, Jeremy was talking about finding someone's motivation, right? Which is basically the reason that's going to make them take action, make a change, invest some money, right? Whatever the service is, right? Their main motivation is the main thing that's going to make them make a change, right? So a lot of times, it's usually something that's very painful or frustrating or hard for the person, right? For example, if someone's trying to lose weight, right? Maybe the reason is because they can't play with their children. They feel like they're going to die before they could see their kids get married or something like that, right? Like a lot of people are very shameful or embarrassed or whatever about whatever problem they can't solve, right? People usually don't like to announce their shortcomings to the world, right? So it's usually like pretty sensitive. But what people much more often do like talking about is their goals, their intention, the things that they like, the things that they want more of, right? And usually their biggest problem or pain point is what a lot of people call it, right? But problem they're trying to solve by investing in whatever thing is being sold, right? Usually their biggest problem is the opposite, right, of their goals, at least one of their goals, right? So, for example, back when I used to sell sales training, right, people would talk about like, I want to make more money, right? And I want more freedom, time flexibility. I want to travel. I want. And then you know what I hear after doing it enough times? This guy probably hates his freaking job. So, and it's something about something that he hates with his job. That's probably the main thing that's going to make him make a change, right? Because like according to science, you feel 4 times the sense of urgency to make a change due to pain, right? Getting rid of pain rather than getting more pleasure or AKA things that you want, right? For example, if you're hungry, you're not going to sprint to the kitchen necessarily to cook something up or like drop everything you do. Like, I need to call Uber Eats or whatever you do, right? However, if your hand's on freaking fire, you're going to get it out of the fire pretty freaking quick. It's just an example. But yeah, so basically to summarize, kind of went on a tangent once again. Usually pain is like the main thing that is going to make someone make an urgent change, especially right away, right? And it, for most people, their main motivation is a problem, right? That means a lot to them that they want to solve, right? And while communication a lot of times can get people to just open up, and like literally once I started like mastering these fundamentals of communication, there's been so many calls where like I'm not even trying to like understand their motive necessarily right away, and people just open right the hell up because like we're in rapport on such a deep level, you know, that they're like, I like this guy, I trust this guy, this is what I'm trying to do, you know what I'm saying? But if you are getting resistance, right, focusing on their goals and then seeing if you could just ask those probing questions to find the inverse of like what they're trying to achieve. Okay, like what's holding you back from doing that now, right? Or oh, you want more, like you want to grow your career, you want to feel like you're making more, but also just like growing as a person rather than being stuck. All right, what's making you feel stuck right now? Probably your freaking job. Okay, well, why? You know, and you can ask like all these probing questions until like once you do enough calls and feel what it's like to really understand what's the main thing that makes this person want to make a change, right? You'll start to feel like a sixth sense, and you'll know when you hit it every single time, right? So anyways, that was a long feedback, but let's jump into this.
Right? Hey guys, Jeremy Miner here. Look, a lot of you leave comments wanting me to help you sell more. So the easiest way to get those more deals, let's get back to the training video. And number 3, you've got to use more neutral language, especially in the beginning parts of the conversation. Most salespeople try to assume the sale way too early in the conversation. And because you try to assume it way too early, especially if they're an A-type, you're going to notice what they do. I didn't say I was ready to buy yet, but we're still looking around. Oh yeah, John, I just called. I saw your inquiry about being interested in our XYZ product. Well, I'm just kind of looking at my different options. See how you assume that. But if I simply made it more neutral, John, I got your inquiry. You asked us to give you a call back about possibly looking at ways to grow your business, right? Possibly looking at ways. Notice possibly is a neutral word. I'm not assumptive there. Now, do I know I can help them? Yes. Does the prospect know I can help them in the first 30 seconds to a few minutes of a call? No. Or a conversation? No. Okay. Because how much trust and credibility do I have? Not much. I have to build that by building the gap. Okay. So I'm going to use more neutral language like, what would you possibly be looking for? Or what would you might want to look at? Or what would you maybe want to go through if I did have time? See, I'm using that maybe, possibly, might be. We might be able to help you. We just have to look. You know, we might be able to do something for you, but I need to know a little bit more. I'm neutral. I'm unbiased, which causes the prospect to let their guard down. Are you with me? Okay. Now, I know you have questions, so I'm going to give you my number to text me, 480-637-2944.
Alrighty. So the neutral one, yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want the prospect, person who's potentially going to buy from you, to feel pressured or forced into anything, because yes, it will put their walls up, right? And they won't trust you. But yeah, I really feel like the other 2 sections were far more valuable, really diving into the power of tonality and he was saying tonality makes someone perceive your intention a certain way. I like to look at it as tonality. Yes, it can make people feel certain ways about you or believe what you're saying more or engage more and have more interest, but intention still comes first, right? And a lot of people, when their tonality's off or their intention's off, can send the message, I don't care about you. I just want your money. And when people think you think that about them, they're not going to trust you and they're not going to want to open up to you. And they're going to want to defend themselves, right? By not telling you their problems and that sort of thing. So yeah, attention is, in my opinion, even more important than tonality, but tonality is 5 times more powerful than the words you say. So once again, I have a video on that. Also, if you're in sales, so first of all, let me back up. Aura is a high ticket remote sales recruitment company, and we have a job board of proven opportunities currently hiring, and we never charge sales reps for any of the positions that we help you land, right? So it's totally free. Everything we do here, we don't charge for training. None of that bait and switch. Here's a job. Just kidding. Give me $5,000. Crap that I've seen way too many times out there. But anyway, so hope you got some value out of this. And yeah, let's run it up.